The collaborative efforts of hundreds of amateur mapmakers during the recent San Diego fires illustrates how social mapping is redefining the traditional boundaries of geographic information systems. Over the course of 10 days last October, raging wildfires devastated more than 500,000 acres in Southern California. NASA tracked the fires with multiple Earth-observing satellites and uploaded new images daily to Google Earth. These digitally enhanced landscapes present a highly sophisticated view of nearly real-time conditions on the ground. NASA assisted the Forestry Service in fighting the fires and offered the public an unprecedented view of the natural disaster as it unfolded. Because of their ability to capture endless streams of visual data and their military and scientific origins, we tend to view satellites as official registers of earthly activities. But like any form of photography, satellite images are not objective truths. As media theorist Lisa Parks reminds us, the abstraction of satellite images calls for deep levels of local validation in order to read them. We must rely heavily on context to understand what these photographs reveal. Susan Merland was 125 miles from home when she learned that fires were racing toward her neighborhood in San Diego last October. Authorities had closed down the highways, and so, stranded at her weekend home in Palm Desert, Susan followed the movements of the fires on a mashup created by the local NPR affiliate, KPBS. Place markers and notations on the map detailed the perimeter and status of each fire in San Diego County and provided continuous updates on threatened neighborhoods, road closures, evacuation notices, and shelter availability throughout the area. Reporters in the field and citizen journalists across the region sent updates to the radio station via their cell phones, describing what they were seeing unfold before them. 3 days after KPBS launched this mashup, it had been viewed over 1.2 million times. On Flickr, hundreds of people affected by the fires began posting and sharing their own photographs online. The images on Flickr's map offered an alternative perspective to the disembodied techno-precision of NASA's visual data. These pictures, predominantly snapped by amateurs, not only captured the view of the fire as it appeared from different locations on the ground, but also communicated the unique viewpoint of each photographer. Under one image, a Flickr member wrote, "Cheryl woke me around 3:30 a.m. to let me know that the Harris Fire had crested Mount Miguel and other areas near Spring Valley. These shots were taken from our back deck around 4 a.m. or so. There is a blur from the long exposure time. I tried my best to steady the camera on the deck railing." While his wife would have preferred him to be packing based on the news report she was watching on television, Gary Aldstadt was not in a hurry. "As close as the fire really looked from my backyard," he said, "I knew intellectually that it was still pretty far away. When I went online and really mapped it out, sure enough, I could tell that we had some time. Unless the wind shifted, we were going to be okay." Unlike the KPBS map, Flickr did not chart the hard statistics of acres burned, houses lost, or civilians evacuated. It was a constellation of highly personal stories tied to a specific place at a single moment in time. Each image represented the situated knowledge of an individual photographer, and the multiple perspectives that emerged created a powerful, collective narrative of human emotion and experience. From her desert outpost, Susan Merland saw Gary's photographs on Flickr. Her house was only a quarter-mile away from his, so she contacted him to find out what was happening in their neighborhood. She told me later, His photos were, in a way, reassuring. It was actual, real-time, I'm standing on my deck looking at the fire. There was really no map at that point that would have been accurate enough to show that. The San Diego fire maps appear to reinforce the much-hyped promise of citizen journalism and the value of crowdsourced content on the web. But what is not represented on the maps, the voices of those without internet access, or the stories of undocumented immigrants who were reported to have been turned away from emergency shelters, this dispels the utopian notion that collaborative map-making is universally inclusive or any less politicized than traditional cartography. Despite the fact that the fires destroyed nearly 40,000 acres in Tijuana, Ensenada, and elsewhere in Baja California, there was little mention of these sites in the news, and none on NASA's website. A line drawn onto the map delineates the border between California and Mexico, and like an information firewall, it blocks the flow of data from one country to the next.